Hello, good to see you. It's Sonia here. We are going to talk about fat loss when it's difficult to lose fat and it's easy to gain fat, and also fatigue when it is categorically not your thyroid. And so today is going to be the final in the series of Facebook Lives that I called When Hormones Hijack Your Health. And this whole concept was born of the coronavirus, really. I was sitting at home over Easter and I just thought, what can I do that brings value to my community of men and women who are tired, have lost their lust for life, and they want to regain their energy and their vitality. And so I thought I'd just come on and share with you the most common questions that I get asked in a consultation and just give the solutions away to you all. And so I call this the final in the series because I'm actually going to go on retreat in August. So I won't be doing any more Facebook Lives until September. I am going to come back in September, but on a slightly different day, slightly different time, and a slightly different orientation in terms of the way that we run these events. But I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Let's get crack-a-lackin' with fatigue and fat loss when it's not your thyroid. So firstly, this topic came out of a conversation that I was having with a beautiful client that I've been seeing for about a month, and she went off and got a whole series of tests done, and her results came back with some pretty cray-cray hormone results, so some crazy hormone results. And she was chatting to me and literally crying, going, you know what, for years people have been saying to me that I've been a secret eater and that I must be lying about what I'm doing because, my personal trainer is saying, it's just not possible for you to be exercising the way you are with me and eating the way you claim you're eating and for you not to be losing weight. And I felt like that I knew I wasn't secret eating. So why is everyone telling me I'm lying? And it was upsetting for her. And so what I did was I sent her away for some tests, which I'll explain what they are in just a minute and why we landed on those particular tests for this lady. And she had some really out of range hormones. Now, she was an otherwise young, healthy gal, so it didn't make sense that these hormones would be out of balance. But for sure, they were causing her to experience more fatigue and really rough fat loss. And she'd been restricting calories and increasing exercise for a long period of time. So this is literally when someone says to you, oh, well, weight is just a mathematical equation. It's just simply eat less and exercise more. And in your heart of hearts that you've been trying that and it hasn't been working. If that's going on for you, it's hormones that can be hijacking that process. And until you get these guys in balance, you may just really struggle with this. And the reason for my approach, which is find out what hormone is going on in your body first up, before we then mount a solution, step 2, is because if it is hormones hijacking your fatigue and your fat loss process, more often than not, the solution is 3 months in duration. So all the solutions that I'm going to share with you are evidence-based. So there's scientific research and there's excellent quality research for these solutions. But they only work if we've got the right hormone targeted. So really a scattergun approach, like a, just get out there and scattergun and we just fling some supplements at you and hope and pray that it works. I've never found that's worked. I've literally, in all the years I've been practicing, have never found that successful for someone in terms of improving energy and reducing fat. I just find with my clients, we get success if we work out up front what hormone is not working for them. That's when we get success. And look, it could just be because if you know that the strategy that you're following is going to take 3 months, you're invested in the process. You can understand that it's 3 months of a supplementation or 3 months of a particular type of stress management technique or 3 months of a particular first meal or breakfast of the day, if you know that it's matching what's going on in your body. Whereas if you're being told, oh, look, this might take a couple of months and this may or may not work, and what I'm asking you to do is quite tough or different to what you actually enjoy doing, it's hard to commit for 3 months. I mean, that's what, 30 multiplied by 3, that's 90 days of committing to something before you might be seeing some results. So it's important to know up front what's going on. So if you think that this is sounding like a conversation that you're having with someone that you know or love, please feel free to tag them on this video or share it. I'm very happy for this information to go out widely to everyone, because I actually find that this is information that people just don't know. Sometimes I'm talking about stuff and I'm like, I think everyone kind of knows this, but let me formalize it for you or put some weight in terms of scientific research behind my recommendations. I actually find this is information that people are often saying, wow, that's the first time I ever knew that. I literally did not know that that could be causing me to be tired or struggling with fat loss. All right, so let's get started. And before I do, I'm just going to check on comments and then we'll jump in and get started together, talking about what could be going on, how to work out it's going on in your body, and then solution mode, right? Hey, Alison, it's lovely to see you, sweetheart. One of the best things about these times has been the kind people who've given their time and knowledge free on Facebook. Yeah, I agree. I actually think in a lot of circumstances, we're seeing the best of people during these tough times, you know, and people caring for their communities. You know, I can't help everybody, but I can certainly help my community. I'm quite focused on the sort of things that I do. You know, I don't go out and offer solutions for little kids or for conditions. That's not something that I've done extra research on. I keep it really tightly, narrowly focused. So I thought, why not? Let's get this information out there for free. So thank you, Alison. But please allow me to bring you more value. So share with me any questions you have or are hoping that I would answer. Yeah, I hear you. And so Alison's saying the problem is I've just got to remember. Yeah, so brain fog. More chats on brain fog, right? Hey, Lisa, lovely to see you on. Thank you for tagging Kath. Hey, Kath, nice to meet you if you join. Hey, Caroline, lovely to see you. And Caroline Sills helps me to realize that I'm not alone with my issues. I definitely contact Sue. Beautiful. I love to hear from you. Yeah, I agree with you, Caroline. That was one of the most defining moments of my life. You know, I put it up there with my wedding day and the day that I got engaged a couple of times. And that was the day that I sat down at my computer after work. I was working in an HR kind of role. And I was reading about someone called Sarah Wilson, the lady who created the I Quit Sugar program. And she talked about the fact that she had the same thyroid disorder that I had. And she was talking about how even though she was medicated, she still put on weight. She put on, I think, 10 or so kilos. I don't want to retell her story and get it wrong, so I'll just keep it brief. And she was tired. And I remember just crying, and I literally couldn't sleep that night. And I, could sleep for Australia back then because my health was in such a bad way. And I was like, I'm not alone, because up to that point, I honestly thought that I was insane. And I would often kind of half joke, half seriously say to my husband, just drive me up the road to the mental institution. This is not to devalue people with mental health issues, but just to let you know, I literally thought that something was wrong in my head because I was continually told that I was on the right medication. There was nothing wrong with me. I just needed to eat less and exercise more, and that I just needed an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety. And look, that's all true in and of its way, but there were other solutions, and there were certainly more things that I could control in my lifestyle. So you can't go backwards, you can only move forwards. So I look at that time and just think I'm really grateful that I had it, because it led me to be here and led me to be so passionate about sharing this information with absolutely everyone we can. We're not alone. And as Caroline says, there is so much healing and therapy that comes from knowing you're not alone and that there are potential solutions out there, whatever you decide to do. And by the way, just so you know up front, I'm not anti-medication. I think whatever your solution is, it's fantastic. My job and the information that I want to give you is to support you in your journey. So that's just a little bit about me if you've not met me before. So I believe in complementary therapy. So whatever's going on for you, my job is to support you and my profession and my industry. It's not about judging. Whatever you choose to do is A-okay with us and with me, and it's just making sure that you have the best experience in that, whatever that might be for you. All right. Hey, Philippa, lovely to see you, my love. Can't watch this live and look forward to catching up later. Absolutely, my love. And feel free, by the way, if you're watching this later, feel free to engage with me in questions. I love coming back to this a couple of times during the week. I'm doing it daily at the moment because I'm posting about my own journey with 9 cups of veggies a day for different reasons. So I love coming back and answering people's questions. Feel free. I really enjoyed it. All right, so let's get started. Enough chit chat, right? We're here to deliver some value. So what hormones are hijacking your fatigue and your weight? And specifically when I talk about weight, you'll hear me say fat, because ultimately what we all want is lower fat stores, more muscle stores. So I'm not really that interested in your weight in terms of when you jump on the scales. What I'm interested in is that you're preserving your muscle mass and if possible growing it, and you're reducing your fat stores, because that is an energetic, healthy, long life. So that's why I talk about fat loss. Let me upfront explain to you what hormones are hijacking your health. So I'm talking about really 3 sets of hormones here. The first set of hormones are your sugar-loving, fat-loving hormones that respond really quickly to what you eat, what you drink, but they also respond to your stress and your sleep. So that's your sugar-loving, fat-loving hormones. The second set of hormones that we're going to talk about are what I call your sex hormones. So whether you're a dude or whether you're a woman, we have the same hormones. We have estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And when these get out of balance in a woman or get out of balance in a man, we absolutely can be more tired, and we absolutely can struggle with fat loss and fat gain. And then the final set of hormones are your stress hormones. I'm actually going to do them last today. And the reason for that is I'm just going to give you a series of lifestyle remedies for these stress hormones. Because anytime there is long-term ongoing stress, inflammation or injury, you're always setting yourself up for fatigue and a struggle with fat loss. So let's talk about it. It's really important that you know what hormones are causing your fatigue and what hormones are involved in fat loss and fat gain for you. Because like I said at the start, a scattergun approach, like just fling some supplements, put you on a diet, give you an exercise program, does not work if this isn't working properly for you. Let me explain why. When I was talking at the start about that very young girl in her 20s, beautiful young girl, she'd been put on a very restrictive diet and she'd been put on a very heavy weight loss program. Weight program. So an exercise routine is what I'm trying to say. And actually what was happening was she was jacking up a set of hormones that was hijacking her ability to lose fat. So what she actually needed to do was chill out a little bit more, eat a little bit more, and actually maintain these hormones in a more balanced fashion. So does that make sense? So literally how you eat, how you exercise, how you relax, when you go to bed, do you need more sleep, less sleep, what supplements you take will change depending on which hormone is hijacking your health. And we can't just say, oh, you know, in my body, middle-aged lady, oh, well, we for sure know that it's going to be this, this, and this. No, we have to go in and actually talk about what symptoms you're experiencing in your body, and then also, if we can, do a few tests. I used to, when I first practiced, rely only on testing. More than likely when I was first practicing, I was a bit insecure, so that makes sense. And then I kind of realized that, you know, most people seem to talk about the same symptom set with similar test results. So I started to try and save my clients money and not send them for tests. And I've actually landed in a third place. And that is, what I like is I love listening to your symptoms. I want you to talk about your symptoms and use your symptoms as a diagnostic tool. And that's what I'm going to explain now, how to use what's going on in your body as a diagnostic tool. But I actually find that I get the best results for you. You get the best results in your body if you then support your symptom set with some testing. And I've kind of got there after practicing for a few years. You know, like I said, at the start, it was all testing, then it was no testing. And now it's actually, you know what, it's 50-50. It's equally balanced between the two. And to use that young girl in her 20s as an example, there's no way I would have guessed that she had the hormones going on in her body that she ended up having on, because I would have expected to see a very different body shape, and I would have also expected to see a very different age. She had a hormone set of someone much, much older than what she was. And considering she was working out and exercising right and had been doing that for many, many years, it was quite unusual. So I think we add the two together. Okay, so what am I talking about? Let's talk about your symptom set. So what I want you to do now is interact with me if you're interested in it now, or if you're watching this later, by all means interact with me. Or not, or just do this at yours at home. Whatever brings you the most value is A-okay for me. What I want you to do is think about when your fatigue is. So I want you to think about a scale of 0 to 10. 1 being lying in bed shouting at yourself, get up, but you can't, you're too tired. 2, you can get up, but you've got to sit down. You have a shower, you have a sit down. You have a cup of tea, you have a sit down. You make the kids' lunches, you've got to have a sit down. That's 2. 3, you can keep walking around and moving, but you're dragging your body. 4, you're still dragging, but it's not as bad as 3. 5, you're no longer dragging your body. You're able to go about your daily tasks, but you certainly do not feel happy or energetic. You're just in motion. 6, you're going, oh, maybe this is energy. I don't know, maybe, maybe not. 7, you're going, yeah, this is energy. Look, it's not enough, but it's okay. 8, you're going, yeah, this is great amount of energy. I'm happy with this amount of energy. 9, you're like, wow, this is amazing. I feel as energetic as possible to feel energetic as a human being. And 10 is you've actually got too much energy. It's like a 3-year-old. Go and get in the backyard and do some star jumps and discharge some of that energy. So what I want you to do is I want you now on a piece of paper and pen, I want you to track down when you wake up, when you get to work, if you're going to work, breakfast. And I see so many people that eat their breakfast at work. You can tell in that explanation. So some of you, it might be wake up, breakfast, then get to work, whatever happens for you. So basically wake up time, then the next time you do something like travel to work or eat, then morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, about 3:30, whether you eat it or not, about that time, dinner, and then before you go to bed. And track your energy on a scale of 1 to 10 with those times. So do that now for me. Just take a little bit of a moment. Hey, Caroline, 3. So sweetheart, track it during the day. So tell me, wake up, mid-morning, lunch, mid-afternoon, dinner, and then before bed. So let's do 6 times. Kate, hey Kate, lovely to see you, sweetheart. Welcome aboard. 4.5. Same for you, darling. Tell me when you wake up, mid-morning or breakfast, lunch, mid-afternoon, dinner, before you go to bed. Tell me how the pattern of your day goes. Ladies, as you're typing that in, I'm going to show you what I'm seeking to find out. So how your energy goes through the day tells me a little bit about the hormone causing fatigue, 1, which allows me then to mount a specific tailored strategy for you. And then secondly, it actually gives me an insight into your fat loss, fat gain as well. So this is key. So if you're one of my clients and you've been seeing me and you're wondering, why is it Sonia every single visit asks me to rate my energy throughout the day? This is why. This is a blockbuster in terms of an insight into your hormonal health, because your hormones dictate your flow of your energy throughout your day. Now, are they the only things dictating your energy throughout the day? No, there are other things as well. If there's food intolerances going on, if you've got nutritional deficiencies, that will also change. But your hormones are certainly really big umbrella things that change your energy and your weight throughout the day. Hey, Caroline, awesome. Good on you. Let's use Caroline as an example. So 3, 5, 5, 4, 3, 3. So firstly, what this shows me is 1, Caroline's very tired, okay? So that's really, my heart goes out to you, sweetheart. Having an energy that never gets above 5, so she never gets more than just, I can get about my daily tasks, but I certainly don't feel energetic or happy. It's too tired. And it's across the whole day. So she's never getting an 8 and then a 2 and then a 9 and then a 1. She's all day, she's just, there's not enough energy. So firstly, the hormone that is dictating that is actually thyroid. So if you've been told it's not your thyroid, what I want to do is just provide a brief insight into what that means medically. So if your GP, your endocrinologist, or your treating family physician, whoever it is you're seeing who tested your thyroid and said your weight is not your thyroid, your energy is not your thyroid, what they're saying is that your thyroid is not so damaged that you need a medication. Just sit with that. So when a GP or a family physician or an endocrinologist is saying it's not your thyroid, what they're saying is your thyroid is not so damaged that it needs medication, or you've got the right amount of medication in you for this lab test. So to actually categorically say your fatigue or your fat is not your thyroid, I want thorough thyroid testing because, and this is evidence-based, so this is based on scientific research, I'm agreeing with your endocrinologist, your family physician, and your doctor. And let me be really clear, there is no disagreement. I agree with them on that answer. What I'm doing is providing additional information. If you have raised thyroid antibodies, even if your thyroid is fine, well medicated, not damaged, you could be experiencing fatigue and weight gain, fat gain, because of your thyroid antibodies, right? Even if you've got the right amount of TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone in your body, so your thyroid's not damaged, or you're on the right amount of medication. If your T3 is too low, we know that rectifying someone's T3 can cause some fat loss and some increase in energy and some relief in brain fog. So I'm not disagreeing, I'm actually agreeing. What I'm doing is providing additional supportive information. So I'll leave that alone because I made a big deal about the fact that this talk is not about thyroid. And if you want some more information on that, I've done a heap of these lives specific to 1, thyroid antibodies, and then 2, thorough thyroid testing, and then 3, T3 and the role that T3 plays in both brain health, energy, and fat. So go have a look for those. All right, so Caroline, always tired. Yes, sweetheart, I can tell by that, my love. Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to absolutely do some work on you. Alison, awesome. So let's add Alison into this chat. We're going to do some problem solving live in action with these 2 beautiful women. And jump on this if you want to join me at any point. So I'm going to try and get Caroline and Alison's to match up. So Alison, you're a 1 when you wake up, then a 3, then a 4, then a 3, then a 4, and a 5. But sometimes you can have better weeks. Even that's interesting. So the fact that Alison said, but this isn't always, sometimes it can get a little better, sometimes can get a little bit worse. So let me jump on Alison's. Caroline, I'm going to come back to you, sweetheart. So Alison, the fact that you have good weeks and bad weeks, so if that's you, if you're like, I'm absolutely exhausted, but this isn't my every single week, it's like 3 weeks out of 4 or 2 weeks out of 4, I immediately think female hormones are out of balance. So what's going on with your female hormones? Because that, I feel amazing when my estrogen is high a week after my period, and then I feel progressively worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And then I get my period and then I feel really bad. And then I feel okay. And then I feel amazing. If that's going on, absolutely we need to talk about balancing estrogen and progesterone. So that's a very specific strategy. I'll talk about strategies a little bit later. So for both Caroline and Alison, they're both very low scores. So neither of them are ever getting above 5. So firstly, what's going on with their thyroid? Have they had thorough thyroid testing? If that's okay, the next thing that I want to know is, are there some nutritional deficiencies? So have we had their iron panel done and their B12 done? Because they're both very low. They are both very, very low hormones. And then the third thing that I want to ask then is, I want to find out what's going on with their weight. And if they're finding that they really can't eat much and they put on weight quite easily, there's a particular hormone which is called leptin that I would be interested in for both of these ladies. Why? Because they are just so consistently tired. All right, so then we go in and have a look at the flow of their day. So what I want to talk about is when your energy looks like this, That means you have balanced sunshine hormones and balanced nighttime hormones, or balanced day hormone and night hormones. So these are your stress hormones. So I call these your wake up hormones and your go to sleep hormones. That's what energy is meant to look like. You're meant to wake up at a 7 to an 8. Some people wake up at a 7, then by the time they get moving, have a shower, they're an 8, that's fine. And then they gradually get a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less. Now we're after dinner, we're quite tired after dinner, barely crashing, going to bed, sleeping well, good. So that's a nicely balanced flow to their day. And then their nighttime hormones are very low all day. And then after dinner, they start to rise quite dramatically and then remain high during the night. So that's a really nicely balanced daytime, nighttime hormone pattern. If what they're describing is something like this, and this is what both of these ladies are describing, they're describing waking up low. So Caroline's waking up at a 3, going to a 5. Alison's waking up a 1, going to a 3, going to a 4. So both of them have this pattern. So both of you, what we've got, firstly, is unbalanced nighttime hormone to morning hormone. So that's the first hormone that's out of balance, right? So that's our stress, our wake up, and our nighttime hormones. 1. 2, what we've then got for both of them, so for Caroline and for Alison, Kate, feel free to jump in with yours as well, darling, if you want to. So with Caroline, and ladies, keep me honest if I've misunderstood your posting. So Caroline is a 5 during the day. Yeah. So this is Caroline at 5 at lunch, mid-morning, lunchtime, and then she's crashing as her afternoon happens, but then she stays low. So her nighttime hormone is quite well balanced. So Alison does look like that at the latter part of the day. Sorry, Caroline. Caroline does look like that at the latter part of the day. Oh, I almost got it really wrong. Alison, for you, sweetheart, you're more like this pattern at the end of the day. So what I'm seeing with Alison is I'm seeing her go 1, 3, 4. This is Alison here at midday. Then she's crashing mid-afternoon. Then she's getting a little surge of energy around dinner. And she's finishing her day the most energetic. So she's finishing up here. Now, she's not had that energy at any point during the day. This is when she's most energetic. This is a burst of nighttime energy. This is someone describing having a second wind. So getting a burst of energy in the evening. I don't love hearing that, I've got to tell you. Sure, there's something called night owls and larks. So some people are just more energetic at night than in the day. But you kind of know that, right? You've grown up knowing that. You've generally adjusted your whole life to that. That's okay. That's a circadian rhythm preference. What I'm describing now is someone who has a second wind at night, and yes, they get a lot of work done. You know, they finish off their work for the day. They might rush around and do some chores. They might do some cooking or what have you, but they're not able to get to sleep okay, and then they don't have the energy they want during the day when they want it. That's not okay. We've got to rebalance that. Now, that pattern is usually analogous, found with 2 things. 1, poorly balanced daytime and nighttime hormones. So we already know for Alison that's happening for her in the morning. So it's more than likely happening at night. So we find that pattern in someone who's had long-term chronic health issues. So that would be interesting. Alison, you don't have to share that with us. But just so you know, as a group, someone who's had a long-term autoimmune condition, long-term thyroid condition, long-term something or other, osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, more than likely will have that imbalance. The second thing is this happens to women quite easily with stress in their perimenopausal and menopausal years. So in the kind of late 40s, early 50s and on, we just become less stress resilient. So when I was younger, I could cope with a stressful day, a screaming match with my partner, the kids being out of control and not having, and not eating well. And as I hit perimenopause and menopause, I've got to eat well. I've got to manage my stress levels. I don't get away scot-free from having a screaming match or having, a late night. I just feel shattered very easily. So that's telling me that we need to help her female hormones if she's around that age. And then the final thing is, and the biggest learning from this, and I'm sorry I left the biggest learning till last, actually, Alison, for you and for everyone listening, but I did. So that's the beauty and the danger of these lives. You can't go back and go, oh, I should have done that in a different order. It's done now. The biggest thing is this is very much a pattern of someone whose body is doing really unusual, weird things with sugar. So what her body has chosen to do is process sugars and the foods she's eating a little unusually. So from this pattern, what I'd recommend for Alison, and these are just, I'm using them as examples, right? This is not necessarily a recommendation. Well, I'm just questioning myself. No, this is a recommendation to both of you ladies, if you want it. So what I would recommend for Alison, Caroline, I'll come back and chat about you in a minute. Alison, for you, we need to do two things. One, we need to judge your cortisol and melatonin levels, so your wake-up hormones and your nighttime hormones, because what I've got to separate out is how much of this is cortisone, melatonin, how much of this is thyroid, how much of this is B12, iron, and how much of this is also insulin and leptin, your sugar fat loving hormones. Because at the moment, that pattern of wake up tired, get a little bit of a lift around lunchtime, crash down mid-afternoon, and then get my second wind in the afternoon, and that's not every week. What I'm looking at is your classic combination of unbalanced wake up and sleep hormones, cortisol and melatonin. Unbalanced sugar and fat hormones, insulin and leptin. More than likely, just based on how tired she is, a thyroid issue, even if it's not bad enough that it's causing medication concerns. Female hormone issues, so sex hormone issues. Why? Because it's not every week. And then, because also that pattern during the day is we would mount a strategy based on her test results, and then if she didn't achieve the results she wanted in 3 months, we'd start exploring food intolerances, again for that pattern during the day of bouncing around. So it sounds like a lot, right? So the purpose of this Facebook Live is to explain how you break it into easy to manage steps. You know, it's that old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. What I've learned in being in practice for years is that it's really important not to try and do everything at once. Hormones just don't like it. You want to do one thing at a time, do it very thoroughly, which could be a month to 3 months, then you move on and you add in the next hormone. And so because that means if you've got multiple things going on in your body, if you do have unbalanced female hormones, you do have unbalanced thyroid, you do have unbalanced stress and wake up and nighttime hormones, you do have unbalanced insulin and leptin, sugar loving, fat loving hormones, you're looking at a number of different strategies. It's tempting, it's human nature to say, let me do all 4 at once, Sonia, because I'm exhausted. You don't know how exhausted I am. Just hit me with all the supplements at once. I have done that for people. My heart has broken. I felt so compassionate for people that are so tired they can't even get to switch the TV off. Like they're that tired they can't get off the lounge in the afternoon. And I'm like, oh, I just need to give you some relief. And so I give them a few supplements at once. It doesn't work. When I'm disciplined with myself and we go, no, I hear how tired you are, but let's just do this one step at a time and do it thoroughly. They're the people that get predictable results. And yes, it might sound like it's going to take longer. It never does. It never does. It's always shorter and it's always more predictable. Because the thing is, you're not waiting 3 months without any result. No, you'll feel better within a couple of weeks. It's just that we stack it one layer on. Whereas if we do it all at once, it just doesn't work. So, hey, Lisa, gotta go. No worries, my love. Beautiful. That sounds great, darling. So Alison, does that make sense, sweetheart? Do you have any questions about that? And if you do, feel free to ask them, sweetheart. But also too, I'm going to actually spend the rest of this live talking about these different sets that are going on in your body. Caroline, let me come back to you, my love. Always tired. So with your pattern, you're waking up, you're getting a little bit of energy around mid-morning, lunchtime, and then you start to dip down and then you just go down, 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 down until you crawl into bed, right? That's what it sounds like. So firstly, we've got some unbalanced wake up, sleep hormone in the morning very specifically. So quite different to Alison, who's got it morning and night. I'm not so keen to test for your wake up and sleep hormones. I think I can just assume that it's out of balance and mount a strategy for it, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. What I am interested in is your thyroid. Why? Because you're so low all day. Secondly, I'm interested in your B12 and your iron panel, as I've already explained. Why? Because you're so low during the day. And then the third thing is I'm very interested in your response to food, so your sugar and your stress loving hormones. Sorry, apologize. Your sugar and your fat loving hormones, because I wonder if there's not an unbalanced leptin in this, just tired constantly through the day. Exactly right. Okay, Caroline, beautiful. Good, we've got it. So what tests would I send you for? I would send you for, okay, Caroline, I would send you for some thorough thyroid testing, particularly if you had a family history of autoimmunity or thyroid issues. I would send you for, you didn't mention that this was only a few weeks out of a couple, so no need for sex hormones. If you're a dude, if you're a guy, I would send you for some sex hormones testing. I literally had a client yesterday who is a male who's just tired all the time, and very much your pattern, sweetheart, but a guy. And I suspected that his testosterone was out of balance. Young, fit, healthy dude, eats well, works out, should have fine testosterone. Sent him off for some testosterone levels, only in his late 20s, early 30s. Ended up having testosterone of a 60 to 80-year-old man, like appallingly low testosterone. So for a guy with this kind of, I'm just always tired, there doesn't seem to be relief ever, I'm very interested in testosterone for a guy. For a woman, yes, testosterone is interesting to me, but I'd want more symptoms. So I'd be wanting to hear her say, my weight gain's very much in my upper belly. I'm starting to get some black hairs where I don't want the black hairs. Maybe some pimples when I wouldn't expect to see them. And they're the kind of things that I'd be interested in hearing about if I was worried for testosterone for her. And also inability to build muscle, because testosterone is very much about muscle building. All right, so Caroline, for you, I wonder if I answered that question. Let me just do a quick summary for you, sweetheart. So I'd be very interested in knowing your leptin results, your fasting insulin result. All these tests, by the way, should be done fasted. And then I'd be very interested in your thyroid, your B12 and your iron. Okay, so thank you, ladies. That was a brilliant conversation. So if you're wondering, could I do something like this for you, please pop your answers in here. So let's do a bit of a summary, and then let me give you those tests for everyone, and then let's go into some solution modes. So these are the hormones that can hijack your energy and your fat deposits. So what we're talking about now is we're talking about our sugar loving and our fat loving hormones. These are insulin, insulin, and leptin, leptin. You test both of them. Insulin is Medicare bulk billable in Australia. So for Australian clients, this means that if your GP or your physician agrees, they can send you for these tests on Medicare's dime, which means you don't pay for them. But your GP has to agree, right? And the other one is leptin, and that's not available under Medicare. You have to pay for it. When I send my clients for it via Lavity Pathology, it's around $100 plus GST. So it's not cheap, right? It's a substantial outlay, but it is absolutely worthwhile learning that. So when I suspect insulin, for your information, is when I see someone's energy bounce around during the day. So the fact that Caroline is waking up tired, then she gets more energy when she eats, and as her day progresses, is what's interesting to me about her insulin. For Alison, the reason why I jumped on that and was like, this is really the most important, even though I left it till the end to describe, is because she bounces so much during the day. So that's very much a highly dysregulated insulin level. It really can be pointing to that. So this is someone who says, I finish a meal and I can be given energy, or I can have a carb crash or be fatigued after food. Food should not give you energy, and it should not take your energy away. So if you're finding that you need a boost from an afternoon chocolate bar, that's not good. And if you avoid foods because they make you tired, That's also not good. So that means that your body is processing those foods and the carbohydrates involved in them differently. When I suspect leptin is when I start to hear someone say that I really avoid carbohydrates if I've got to feel clear in the head, or if I've got to do some work, because carbohydrates really knock me out big time. So this is someone who, has a bowl of pasta and then literally has to have a nap. Doesn't matter if they're having it for lunch, afternoon tea, or dinner. I also suspect leptin when I see someone who's permanently gaining weight, so constantly putting on fat and more fat and more fat and more fat, and yet they are restricting their calories and they're working out and they're just not getting relief. I'm very interested in leptin. I'm also very interested in leptin when I hear someone's just always tired. So you notice that for both those ladies, for Caroline and Alison, I said, oh, you're both so tired, like neither of you are getting above 5. That's not good, right? So that's your thyroid, or it's leptin, or it's a low nutrient like a B12 or an iron. And it's because leptin thinks that you're walking through the Gobi Desert and you're starving. And what it's trying to do is get you to walk really slowly to conserve energy. It doesn't understand that that's not your reality. So that's what the hormone leptin is doing. Now, ladies, if you've got a thyroid disorder, there's been recent research done in the last 5 years that sees the relationship between leptin and thyroid is absolutely involved. And in fact, leptin is somehow involved in the immune system as well as in thyroid. So, and this is pretty recent research, right? So if you've got a thyroid issue and we haven't tested your leptin, and we've not yet improved your energy, and you're still struggling with fat gain or difficult fat loss, we absolutely have to understand what your leptin is doing, because there is a very specific way of eating for leptin management, because you can really muck up your leptin with some unwise dietary changes. My pleasure, Caroline. Beautiful. Stay on board. We're going to go into solution mode in just a minute. So that was the first set of hormones. So what I was describing to you there was when you would suspect, what would you be hearing, what would you be experiencing in your body, and then what would you test. The next set of hormones that can hijack your energy and your fatigue are your female hormones or your male hormones. We call them sex hormones, SEX, where sex means gender, so your gender hormones. So here, I suspect they're out for a woman, and I'll explain a man in a minute. Think that your sex hormones are a little bit out if I start to hear, it's not every week that I'm this tired or this brain foggy or this struggling with my weight or this struggling with my mood. I can't really pin it down, but I do find that some weeks are better than others. So I really am interested in your sex hormones when I start to hear that. I'm very interested in your sex hormones if this is happening and you've just gone on the pill or you've come off the pill. You've gone on some sort of contraception or come off some sort of hormonal contraception. I'm very interested in your sex hormones if you are in the 40s or 50s, regardless of whether you've gone through menopause or not. When you're in your 40s and 50s, I'm very interested in the influence of your sex hormones there. And then those ladies who you're postmenopausal, so you've been for sure 12 months without a period, if you're experiencing chronic ongoing fatigue, as well as some issues with your weight, I'm very interested in your hormones, particularly testosterone, as much as your estrogen and your progesterone. So that's often news to women. They don't realize that they also have testosterone. We often think of testosterone as being the dude hormone, the male hormone. No, we have testosterone, and testosterone is vital to our ability to build muscle, lose fat, have a lust for life, and have a libido. So if there are issues for you, absolutely get amongst some hormone testing. So what would you get tested? Well, you would get your estrogen, which is called estradiol, E2, progesterone or P4, and your testosterone. When you test your testosterone, you must always get 3 tests done: total testosterone, sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG, and free androgen index. They're 3 tests. So that's your package: progesterone, estrogen, SHBG, total testosterone, free androgen index. That's your sex hormone testing. Dudes, you get the same tests done, right? So those same tests. Dudes, you've got estrogen and progesterone in your body just as much as women do have testosterone. And what can happen for you in terms of what you'd be experiencing if your testosterone was low or your estrogen was too high, which can commonly happen in dudes, is that you would be struggling to gain muscle Or you'd be gaining muscle okay, but you'd be struggling to lose fat, or you're feeling tired, and or you're starting to lose your mood balance. So guys, you should wake up and have a very balanced mood most days of the week. I mean, stress obviously has an impact. But if you're starting to feel anxious and you're like, I don't have a reason, there's no situation for this anxiety, or low mood, again, there's no situation or reason for it. Look, sure, it could be genetic, sure, it might be neurotransmitter, but absolutely get your hormones tested, right? And that's what really made me suspect. I was talking about a guy that I literally met with yesterday. I sent him off for some tests, and what I was hearing him say was, here I am in my late 20s, early 30s. I'm fit. I work out every single day, bar one. So 6 out of 7 he works out. He's got an amazing program of weights and flexibility as well as cardiovascular. He eats incredibly well. He only has a once a month beer or a pizza. Like unbelievably on point food, but he wakes up feeling like an old man, and it takes him, a good hour before he doesn't feel shaky in his pins. He's literally feeling steady and wobbly and really tired in the morning. That's not okay, right? And we sent him off for some tests, and like I mentioned, he had the testosterone levels of a 60, 80-year-old man. So for sure that's participating in his symptoms. And one thing he was talking about was feeling anxious and depressed when he didn't have a reason for it. In fact, his life is going incredibly well at the moment. He's really hitting some life goals. He's happier than he's ever been. So, that's what prompted me to go, well, let's go send you for a few tests. Okay. Let me now go on and talk about that third set of hormones that I wanted to talk about. And that is your wake up and your go to sleep hormones. So your cortisol and your melatonin. So cortisol gets you up in the morning, gets you crack-a-lackin', makes you feel sharp and energetic. And then melatonin allows you to feel super chilled, relaxed, and go to sleep. When I start suspecting that they're out of balance is when you wake up feeling tired, you need some food to get cracking. Because food has a specific response on your hormones. This is someone who loves their morning coffee or loves their morning tea, because coffee and tea do something very specific in your brain to melatonin and cortisol. And that's why in my Pep in My Step tea, I have licorice, because licorice has a similar action in your brain. And why you often see me talking about licorice, and there's usually a licorice-based drink somewhere in front of me at the time. And then at night, when melatonin is out of balance, we have nighttime carb cravings. So this is someone who's wanting sugar at night, which is the worst time to eat it, but who's wanting those, wants an ice cream or wants a chocolate or wants some chips or some pretzels as they're watching TV, and someone who's really tired and yet struggling to make themselves go to bed. And then potentially when they are in bed, they're struggling to have a really good night's sleep. They're thrashing around wildly, or they're waking up in a panic at 3 o'clock in the morning. So that's when those kind of symptoms is when I'm like, ooh, I want to send you for some testing. Now, the testing that we get done for these guys is what we call functional testing. It's not available under Medicare. You would need to have someone who is a complementary therapist like myself, or your own nutritionist, naturopath, or herbalist. Happy for you to take this knowledge and go to your own nutritionist, naturopath, and herbalist with it. And you're wanting to get a salivary test done. So you actually spit into a vial. You do that 4 times a day when you wake up, about lunchtime, mid-afternoon, and before bed in general. And that will test your cortisol at those 4 times. Usually it will also test your melatonin, and plus also your mother hormone that makes all those other downstream hormones, your DHEAS, or your fountain of youth hormone. Think about that. So that's what I'd love you to get tested there. All right. So now what that section was explaining the type of hormones that are involved. Let me just check my list to make sure I didn't forget any of them. The type of hormones that are involved, and then how you would test them, what tests you would get done, and then what you would be noticing in your symptom set. Okay, so any questions about that? If you do, feel free to pop them in there. Hey Kim, lovely to see you, sweetheart. Oh, good to see you, my darling. Hope you're well. Okay, so what I'm now going to do is go into solution mode. And as I go into solution mode with each one of those set of hormones that can be causing fatigue and fat gain and difficult fat loss is I want to make it practical, right? So I want to give you some lifestyle solutions, which is something you can do in your day-to-day life. I also want to give you some solutions that you can do with food, and then I want to finish off with some solutions with supplements. And then as I do each one, I'm going to go back over the symptom set. So because a lot of people find this quite complex, I'm not so convinced that I don't make it harder for you to understand with the way that I explain it. I know my own failings. I'm always desperate to share information because I personally love information myself, but I know sometimes a little bit too much information when this is the first time you've ever heard of this might be a little bit too much. I'd probably be better off keeping the conversation a little bit more simple. Anyway, you just work with what you got. This is how my brain works, right? So I need you to ask me questions, because then by your questions, it's like, oh yeah, I get that I haven't explained that well, or I've over-explained it and I've confused everybody. So let me know by all means. It's not being rude at all. In fact, I need it. And often I say to my clients when they're meeting me face to face, look, I can talk for Australia. You literally have to interrupt. And if you ever have a question, you've just got to get in there with your question and ask it. Because you know what, I'm like, I can just keep talking. All right, so let's go into solution mode. We're going to do lifestyle foods and supplements, and I'm going to re-go over what you would be experiencing in your body. Now, I want to give you some questions about insulin and leptin, because I find that more and more so in the clients that I see, that this is almost the key to their fatigue and their fat loss and fat gain questions. Even if they have a thyroid issue, regardless whether they've got a thyroid issue or don't have a thyroid issue. But if you do have a thyroid issue, please don't just think everything you're experiencing is thyroid. This could be going on for you. And in fact, recent research just sees this web of connection between thyroid and leptin and insulin. They're absolutely involved. So you want to make sure that if you've got a thyroid issue and you're tired and you're struggling with weight, that you have explored both your insulin and your leptin. You'd be suspecting insulin for you if you had an energy that bounced around during the day, and that sometimes after eating you felt tired, or after eating you felt energetic. You'd be suspecting leptin if you were just tired all day, but in particular high carbohydrate meals, so pasta, a lot of beers, a lot of wines, a lot of crackers, a lot of rice made you very, very tired. You'd also be suspecting leptin if you had food cravings. Leptin is what I call the sugar-colored glasses. You put these sugar-colored glasses on when you wake up in the morning. They're leptin, they're the hormone leptin, and all day, all you want to do is eat sugar, 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 and sugar. Now, for some people, sugar is sweet. So I'm a sweet tooth, so it's cakes and biscuits and rice crackers. For some people, sugar is savory. It's pretzels, it's chips, it's pasta, it's salty things. And for some people, it's booze. Never forget that alcohol is just carbohydrate. It's just sugar. So some people who say, I must have my afternoon glass of wine or my evening glass of wine or whatever it is, it's actually they want an afternoon sugar hit or an evening sugar hit. So that's when I suspect leptin, when there's food cravings, particularly for things that are high in sugar, whether it's sweet sugars or savory sugars. I very much suspect leptin if you finish eating and then you're hungry. And it was really quite fascinating. I've mentioned a couple of times a very young girl in her 20s who saw me for really difficult fat loss, even though she's working her freaking patootie off in the gym with a personal trainer and really restricting calories dramatically. And she said, I'm not hungry at all during the day, like ever, until I eat and then I'm starving. And when I heard that, I was like, bing! Oh, we've got to go test this girl's leptin, because that's what leptin does, right? Generally makes you quite hungry during the day. It's a bit unusual that she said she wasn't hungry during the day, but we also found she's got some thyroid antibody issues that she didn't know about it. But that's a leptin response, right? So she's just had a really decent meal, and for her it's just vegetables with the occasional piece of fish. She doesn't really eat much. And then all of a sudden she's starving hungry. Ooh, I'm starting to suspect leptin and I want to get her leptin tested. Um, Easy fat gain, difficult fat loss, that's very much about an unbalanced leptin hormone, and cellulite. So are you someone that regardless of your size, you actually struggle a lot with cellulite? Okay, so that is when I suspect your sugar-loving, fat-loving hormones are out of balance. So let's now go into solution mode. The good news about insulin is that it has been extensively well tested, and there is so much you can do through your lifestyle. So much. And in fact, when we catch up again in September, because I'm taking a little retreat in August, when we catch up in September, I'm going to do a series of videos just around insulin and leptin, because there's so much exciting stuff to share about it. And it really is a big part of why women who I see and men who I see in my practice and in my business struggle with fatigue and weight. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview here. But the first and most important thing you must understand is that if you've unbalanced insulin or leptin, whatever you put in your mouth, like even hits that bit of your gum, you don't even have to swallow it. Whatever you stick in your mouth first up in the morning are the hormones that you enjoy or don't enjoy all day. So if you start with a milky coffee or a milky tea, God forbid that it's skim milk or something like that, which is a high sugar product, or you put sugar in it, oh honey, all day you're going to be tired, all day you're going to be wanting carbohydrates and sugar, all day your mood and emotions going to be frayed, and all day more than likely you'll have a worse experience of anxiety. You want the first thing that touches your lips and you swallow in to be protein and fat, and ideally animal based. Because why? Because then it's incredibly low carbohydrate. What you're trying to do is get sugar and carbohydrates away from that first meal. Now, this is not all day. I'm not advocating a ketogenic high fat diet. It's just that first meal. So whatever that first meal is, I don't care when you eat it. So I've got some people who see me who are on the 1 meal a day diet. They only eat 1 meal a day. I don't care. It's you eat 1 meal, it's that meal. You eat 6 meals, it's the first meal. So whatever you call that, whether it's breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, I don't really care. It's whatever you eat first. So what you're hearing in that is I don't want you starting your day with a beverage. So no teas, no coffees as the first thing you do. Now that is damn hard. And for a lot of people, that's the deal breaker. Like that's the, well, I'm just, you know what? You've told me that. Now I need to go find another naturopath because I'm not staying with you. I get it. I get it. To be honest, I would be the same. If you told me I couldn't start with a black coffee, I'd be like, no, you've misunderstood. I can live without you, not the black coffee. So that's because of cortisol and melatonin, by the way. But you just got to deal with what you can deal with. So I'm just giving you the facts and the theory. And if you're like, okay, so I can do the protein and the fat, but what I can't do is not start with my tea or coffee, great. So let's try and make that tea and coffee not sugary. So please not a skim milk product, and please no sugar. If you need stevia or erythritol in that circumstance, first up in the day, use it. Ideally nothing. Ideally black tea or black coffee. All right, so first meal of the day is vital. In particular, if you've got a history of bulimia or anorexia nervosa, that first meal is vital in terms of your sugar-loving hormones that you'll produce for the rest of the day. Some really interesting research on that. Then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to make sure that every time you eat after that first meal, so I'm not talking about the first meal, but after that first meal, has a high resistant starch content. So you'll notice in the kind of recipes that I'm posting more and more of is that there's a lot of lentils, black beans, chickpeas, and a lot of some red lentils I did last night. And I talk about in my own protein shake, which I have as afternoon tea, or in fact I had it this morning before I got on this call, it always has some of this guy in it, partially hydrolyzed guar gum, or PHGG, which is just like a white powder. I'll just sprinkle it into this, which is just a white powder. Can you even see that? I don't know if that's even visible. That's kind of tasteless. You can cook with it, and it's a very high resistant starch. Look, what I love about this, it's through your food, right? No need for an expensive supplement. And it really has been found to work well with leptin levels in people who were obese or large. So really good for you. What about 30 grams just of resistant starch? Now that's a lot of fiber. So that's a lot of fart bombs throughout the day. And as your gut gets a little bit used to it, it might mean some urgent trips to the loo. So fortunately, just outside of that door in my office is the bathroom. So I won't go into that anymore. TMI, too much information. But resistant starch, and you'll notice that's going to start weaving through all the recipes that I start posting on this site, because I'm interested in my own insulin and leptin, right? And so I kind of got a vested interest in starting to cook more with these. I didn't grow up in a family that ever ate beans and legumes, so I literally don't know how to cook with them. So I'm kind of teaching myself through recipes, and I've got beautiful clients who often share these kind of recipes with me, and I'm sort of learning what is yummy and delicious, because it's got to taste delicious, right? So that's it in terms of lifestyle and food, and now we want to do supplements. So when it comes to supplements, the good news is, guys, if you do have these chaps out of balance, there are a whole host of well-tested supplements that might just help you. Firstly, omega-3 fatty acids, specifically from fish. So if you're vegan or vegetarian, it's actually not been found to help with leptin, but fish, omega-3 fatty acids from fish, so your salmon, your sardines, your mackerel, if it's had in big enough doses, can actually help reduce leptin. So that's why you'll notice constantly I'm talking about how often are you eating fish? Could you eat fish every day? Can you convince yourself to fall in love with it? And if you can't, can we get you on a good quality fish oil? I don't love cheap fish oils. It's one supplement that I'm fierce about quality. If you can't use a good quality fish oil, don't use one. You're better off not using it at all. I'm not like that with all supplements, very specifically fish oils. Okay, so then in terms of insulin and leptin, there's 3 supplements that are very, very well tested. One's called alpha lipoic acid, a beautiful, big, massive study. It's a Cochrane review for my naturopath nutritionists and herbalists. So we know the quality of a Cochrane review, right? It's the best, I think, in my opinion, the best validated research out there. Multiple meta-analyses, double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled. Excellent quality. Alpha lipoic acid works. So alpha lipoic acid, right? There are some circumstances where we don't bring it in. So we don't bring it in if someone has thalassemia, which is an iron disorder. We don't bring it in if the person is on blood thinners. So there are some circumstances, guys, if you're watching this and you're not a nutritionist, naturopath, or herbalist, where you want to get individualized advice. So don't take my advice for a supplement. Always make sure you validate it with someone who's selling you this supplement. Don't just buy it from Coles and Woolies. Mind you, I don't think alpha lipoic acid is at Coles and Woolies. Always ask that the person selling it to you gives you a consultation based on the medications you're on. Alpha lipoic acid does not come scot-free. There are some circumstances where we don't recommend it. But take enough, 1,800 milligrams, 1.8. It's a very well-tested nutrient. And berberine is a yellow extract from a number of herbs. So golden seal is one of the herbs, philodendron is one of the herbs. I've just literally this morning, while I was validating my own research on PubMed or Google Scholar, found some more research on berberine even than I had up until this day. So I'm actually just about to put myself on a berberine supplement. So I'll report back in about 3 months. It was 12, all these supplements were 12 weeks of consistent daily habits. No change in lifestyle, but just change in these supplements, and it actually helped them lose weight, lose fat, reduce insulin, reduce leptin. So actually get themselves out of metabolic syndrome, which reduces your lifespan, right? So cardiovascular risk dramatically increases. And then the final one was one of my own personal faves, myo-inositol. I think probably I got introduced this because myo-inositol is fantastic for women with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. So if you know someone with PCOS who's not on myo-inositol, unless there's a specific reason for it, remember they would have got an individualized advice. Oh, I really want them to explore it. So I've got 2 types of inositol in my world, just depending on what I feel like having. The good thing about inositol is it's sweet, tastes delish. You never have a problem with someone taking an inositol supplement because it tastes yummy. So inositol for thyroidy ladies, so when it's taken with selenium, beautiful, reduces thyroid antibodies, improves your energy level, reduces brain fog, nice. And then this one is more for your PCOS lady. This is an inositol supplement that has a bit of selenium in it, also a couple of other random bits and bobs, chromium, bit of zinc, bit of B6, bit of biotin. Biotin's nice for thyroid as well. And it tastes yum. So I'll have this in the afternoon if I'm doing some sort of low sugar program. Like at the moment, I'm doing a low sugar program. If I get really shocking afternoon tea cravings, and I can, they're less and less because I know what's going on in my body. So I really manage my breakfast well, and then that knocks off that afternoon fatigue and afternoon sugar cravings. But I'm not perfect. Some mornings I stuff it up, and then at 3 o'clock going, I've got to eat something sweet. Give me something sweet. I'll have this baby because it tastes yummy. It tastes like cinnamon. It's quite sweet. It's quite yum, and actually helps to reduce the cravings because it's something to do with the way your sugar hormones are going. So that's it for supplements. Let me just check the questions because I can see that I've had a couple of questions come in before I move on to the other hormones. Alison, I don't understand what's meant to happen post-menopause. There are natural changes. Thank you for asking that, sweetheart. I didn't explain. There are natural changes in hormones. Are some people still balanced after this and don't need help? And of those who are not balanced, do they need supplements for the rest of their life? Okay, so before menopause, what happens is you have a regular monthly cycle. You have your period where your hormones are low, progesterone and estrogen. Straight after your period, estrogen crests and then crashes, day 14, where day 1 is the first day of your cycle. Then what happens is progesterone crests, day 21 of your cycle, and then it crashes. And it's the crashing progesterone that triggers a period. So what happens after menopause, or what menopause is caused by usually, is crashing progesterone levels such that you're still getting an estrogen surge and thickening your uterine lining, but you're less and less so there's less and less regularities to your bleed. I apologize, that's perimenopause, which is around the time of menopause. Then menopause is 12 months without a period. So Alison's comment isn't just post-menopause where your estrogen and progesterone are doing this every day. Yes, as you get quite past menopause, but what you can actually find is you cannot have a period, menopause, 12 months, but still have a small change in your hormones as if you're having a monthly cycle. And this only happens for a short period of time, a year or two, but it means that you have this transition where people are menopausal, no period for 12 months, but they can have some change in their month with their energy level. And then once you're truly post-menopausal, so 5 years after your last period, that's really when every day it's just the same kind of hormones. So that's the first thing. Then secondly, Alison asked, are some people balanced after this and don't need help? It very much depends on your individual experience. Some people can cope with estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone being the same every day post-menopausally, and they appreciate and understand that this means that they've lost their natural libido. That's okay. They now know that if they want to be intimate with their partner, they need to work for it, right? They now understand that they're going to have higher cholesterol more than likely. They're going to have lower muscle mass naturally. And they go, okay, that's all right. I'll just work harder on my muscle mass. I will change the way I'm eating. I'll make sure I add some fiber. And these people generally will have a smoother transition post-menopausally. But if you continue to eat the same way you did pre-menopausally, post-menopausally, and you don't build your muscle mass, what will tend to happen is you'll gain weight and you'll lose muscle mass. So you'll be eating less and less and less to maintain the same weight. And if your diet wasn't terribly healthy, so you didn't have a high fiber diet, you'll actually find that you build cholesterol quite easily. Your cardiovascular risk worsens. And also, you might find the mood changes tough to deal with. So, and this is more genetics and neurotransmitters. So some people are just predisposed to getting worsened anxiety and depression post-menopause, and it's quite common, Alison, it's really common. But some people aren't. Sometimes it's lifestyle, more often than not it's genetics. Some people just win the genetic lottery and some people don't. So we can do a specific Facebook Live on that because that's a big topic. Caroline, sounds like you every day. All right, my love, sounds like we've got you. Cup of tea up first. Yes, sweetheart, that's very common, particularly when you're tired, right? Because you're looking for an energy boost and you're trying to knock off that melatonin and get your cortisol going. So it makes sense. And Kim, yeah, I hear you, sweetheart. So let's just wrap up the final few hormones really quickly. And we can. I've done the big one first. Oh, finally. So the next one is some lifestyle remedies for when it's your female hormones that are out of balance. Really, the big one is to reduce stress. So you lose your female hormones, progesterone, when you are chronically stressed. So this is why I talk so much about the importance of vegetables and fish oils. Why? Because vegetables and fish oils reduce inflammation. Reducing inflammation stops you making stress hormones. So that's how you can eat for energy. Also then, a little supplement like a beautiful magnesium from citrate if you have an issue with constipation, or glycinate if you more tend to looser stools, can be really beautiful, because magnesium, B6, taurine and zinc, that kind of quadruple, magnesium, taurine, which is an amino acid, B6, which is a vitamin, and zinc, which is a mineral, those four actually help to sensitize your brain and your body to progesterone. So we're not adding in progesterone or hormones. What we're doing is we're making you more sensitive to those hormones, and that can honestly be a life changer. Remember, don't take just advice from me. You must get some individualized advice where you buy your supplements, just to make sure that those supplements are safe for you. And then for dudes, if testosterone is your concern, I'm always interested in your zinc levels. More than likely your zinc is not high enough, which tells me that your gut might not be loving life. And there's a herb which is called tribulus, which is beautiful for testosterone for men, plus withania, particularly when there's also a thyroid issue. Ashwagandha or withania really helps testosterone, sperm, and dudes, especially when there's a thyroid issue going on. Again, get individualized advice. There are some circumstances where I would not give you tribulus or withania. And then the final set of hormones are the stress hormones. And so for stress hormones, look, there are 1,000,001 remedies and supplements that I could recommend. Honestly, there's so many. But really, if I go straight to supplements, it gives the appearance that the supplements are the best way to manage your stress hormones. They're really not. The research is much stronger on getting inflammation down, which is why I talk so much about vegetables and fish oil, because they are anti-inflammatory nutrients. And then finally, lifestyle remedies. 2 times 20 minutes meditation during the day, some belly breathing, progressive muscle relaxation at night, writing 5 things that you're grateful for in a journal before you go to bed, having a nighttime routine for an hour before you turn off the light of just self-love and self-nurturing. You know, make yourself a beautiful, yummy herbal tea, turn off the lights, kiss your loved ones good night. You're closed for business now. You know, head into your room, do some gentle stretching on the bed. Think about all the wonderful things that are happening in your life. And look, some days when you have a crappy day, it's hard. So I'll sit there and think, well, I'm grateful that I've got ankles. I'm grateful that I've still got my big toe. You know, some days that's what you're grateful for. Other days you're grateful for your partner, your job, the sun was shining. You know, but some days I just physically list some attributes of my body that I'm grateful that I have. So you've got to do what works for you. And then go to bed with the beautiful hormones running in your brain that you want, that cause you to restore and regenerate overnight. And that will actually help set up your next day's hormones. So, and this is particularly relevant for my beautiful thyroid ladies who think because we can sleep so well, we don't have to worry about what we do before we go to bed. Can still think about clients who say, but I just lie in bed and watch TV and I fall off to sleep really easily. Sure, but what's the last thing you watched on TV? Because that's the hormone set that you're building through the night. So it's not about sleep, it's about creating the hormones that you want to enjoy in your day. If you want more energy, more vibrancy, and a lust for life, you can manipulate that. You can actually tweak and control that through your sleep, and then you get to enjoy that the next day. So that is the end of this How Hormones Hijack Your Health series. And in September, I'm thinking about, but I'd love to hear from you all, I'm thinking about making these Facebook Lives at 6 p.m. at night for 30 minutes on Thursdays. So making them shorter, smaller bites of information. Because I think what's happening is I'm giving, I guess, too much information. It can get confusing. And I'm certainly hearing that with my clients that are going, you know, I'm watching your Facebook Lives, but I got confused about this point. And I can see why they're confused. As I'm listening back to what's going on, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. That was a little bit too deep and giving a bit too much. excuse me, and it's just causing a little bit of confusion. So I'm going to rein myself in. That's not your issue, that's my issue, right? I'm going to rein myself in by telling myself I've only got 30 minutes to chat, including interactions. It'll mean that I'll keep it much more targeted, and that might make it more understandable. But I'd love to hear from you. You know, what time of day suits you? Like I said, I'm thinking Thursday night at 6 p.m. So until then, stay safe, hug your loved ones close, and just, I wish you all the very best. I have profoundly and deeply loved doing these Facebook Lives with you, and I want to thank you for your attention. To those of you who've been with me every single week, honestly, I can't tell you how full my heart feels at the moment. I'm tearing up. I feel so lucky and privileged that I've been able to be here with you all for the hour over the last few weeks. I have loved it. It has added to my life. That will be on my gratitude journal tonight as I'm writing before I go to bed. It's really added to my life, and I want to keep going. And my mission and destiny is to serve all of you. You're my community. I love and I care for you. So all my very best. See you on the other side of September. Bye.